And at 10, Marshadow. Marshadow is kind of scary when you think about how it learns and gains its attacks and abilities. It travels through beings' shadows, learning how to copy their movements and then gaining the power of those attacks and moves via the Pokemon or human's shadow that it's actually traveling through. Yeah, it's a ghost and fighting type Pokemon, but it's still a deadly combination. And while using a unique Z crystal known as the Marshadow Z, it also wields the move Soul Stealing 7-star Strike. So yeah, if you'd like to hold on to your soul and the power of your shadow, I guess, stay far away from this thing. Jeez, it's a little bugger, but it could deal some damage. Are you looking to protect yourself or deal some damage? That's a Skyrim thing. It doesn't really belong in Pokemon, but I don't care. And at 9, Genesect. Genesect is a bug and steel type mythical Pokemon who is more than 300 million years old. It was originally believed to be extinct, but was resurrected from a fossil. Yeah, a mythical Pokemon was resurrected from a fossil. Interesting. Originally, this was one of the most feared Pokemon in existence when it roamed the earth upon its original endeavors, but when it was revived, Team Plasma attempted to make it even stronger. Yeah, it wanted to be the strongest Pokemon again, giving it cybernetic enhancements to make it even more powerful. So yeah, it basically looks like a giant robot bug that can walk on 2 legs with a giant blaster on its back that looms over its head. Yeah, it has a giant cannon that's pointed directly at you, especially if you're standing in front of it. Plus, I mean, like, have you seen its movie? Okay, the shiny Genesect leader? Yeah, honestly, Genesect doesn't really feel like an accurate name. Straight up, I think that they called it this just because they didn't want to call the Pokemon Genocide, because it seems like he wants to destroy all of humanity and all of the humans literally ever. And sometimes I feel like maybe that's the only way to save the planet, but I don't think climate change is a real thing in the Pokemon universe. So he just wants to do it for fun. And at 8, Rayquaza. Rayquaza is a beast of a Pokemon. This guy in his original form is 23 feet long and weighs 455 pounds. While he is meant to soothe the other members of the Weather Trio, the territorial nature of the Pokemon means that it will really attack indiscriminately. In the Pokemon movie Destiny Deoxys, Rayquaza attacks Deoxys for its territory, even though it was just looking for its friend, which was another Deoxys. And it was also not really invading his territory at all. But also the shiny of this Pokemon is terrifying, okay? It's a giant flying snake that is nearly impossible to see against the night sky because its shiny form is black with only a couple of yellow spots. Yeah, no thank you. Rayquaza also attacked the rocket ship that Ash friends and Team Rocket were on in the anime episode Where No Togepi Has Gone Before, which is terrifying because, you know, they all could have died because they were basically almost in space. But, you know, they have plot armor, so they didn't. Oh, and by the way, Rayquaza had a battle with Deoxys that caused a meteor to head towards the Alola region, and then Kartana was able to cut it up. But if it hadn't been able to do that, Alola would have been destroyed, and probably the rest of the world too, okay? So yeah, it's a no from me, dog. And it's 7, Zygarde. Zygarde is another powerful Pokemon that has 3 different forms, okay? However, at first, there was only actually 1 form. The 50% form was the first one introduced in Pokemon X and Y, followed by the 10% and 100% forms in Sun and Moon. The 10% form is really nothing to fear, it's just like a green and black dog, but the 50% and 100% forms are freaking nuts. The 50% version is like a giant snake, with like peacock-like tendrils coming off of its back, sticking up in the air like it's ready to attack you. This version is also taller than the 100% form, standing at 16 feet 5 inches tall, whereas the 100% form is a measly 14 feet 9 inches. That's 2 measurements. Either way, it's a beast, and while shorter, the design of its complete form looks like if all the Power Rangers came together to defeat a giant villain, okay? Basically, it's the Megazord of Pokemon, and also having to combine all the different pieces to get to the 100% form is kind of exactly like that, okay? It's pretty genius. And at 6, Mewtwo. Mewtwo is first seen as an evil Pokemon who hated humans, but honestly, he just wanted to be left alone. And in the movie Detective Pikachu, we can see Mewtwo get corrupted and controlled by Howard Clifford, who transfers his consciousness into the Pokemon and then uses him to attack Rhyme City, fusing trainers with their Pokemon. Like what Mewtwo had done for Pikachu and Tim's father to save his life, but this time, it's not like that. Mewtwo is the original most powerful Pokemon, okay? The main goal of the Pokemon games was to eventually capture Mewtwo after becoming the champion, and the fact that this movie proves that one of the most powerful and beloved Pokemon, at least by community standards, can be controlled and used in such a way is absolutely terrifying. This is really only talking about the Detective Pikachu universe, but still, okay? It's nuts, and it's one of the craziest things we've seen in Pokemon, like, to date. Like a Mewtwo controlled by a human? What the flying Halfway through, and at number 5, Darkrai. Darkrai is the original Creeper Pokemon. The original Creeper legendary. Hypno is is and forever will be the creeper Pokemon. However, Darkrai is one rude mother hubber because he's just here to ruin your day. Well, actually, your night. Darkrai is the pitch black Pokemon and loves to feast on dreams. But not just any dreams, no. This psycho loves nightmares. If Darkrai causes you to have a nightmare, they're never going to end. You'll be stuck in a coma-like state with constant nightmares unless exposed to the Lunar Wing from Cresselia. Both Darkrai and Cresselia are the lunar duo, basically countering each other and being polar opposites. But really, do I need to explain why Darkrai is scary? Like, if it's not that obvious at this point, you don't really know Pokemon. And at 4, Yveltal. Yveltal, or Yveltal, depending on how you want to say it, basically just has control over death. It has the power to absorb life energy by spreading its wings and its tail feathers. And in the main series episode, The Legend of X, Y, and Z, Yveltal was shown turning a whole kingdom to stone, including people and Pokemon. And when it reached the end of its life, it kills everything. Yeah, according to the Pokemon Y and Alpha Sapphire Pokedex, when its life comes to an end, it absorbs the life energy of every living thing and turns into a cocoon once more. If this Pokemon dies, everything dies, and apparently, it's inevitable. Sure, the destruction may be contained to the Kalos region, but even then, literally anything and everything from that region will die. So yeah, what the hell? That's insane. That's like the Pokemon equivalent to Pompeii. The utter destruction of even the world. When Yveltal's life comes to an end, how do you not think that's scary? Okay, why is this not higher, actually? I'm questioning why it's not higher. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Giratina. Gira or Giratina, depending on how you want to say it, I say Giratina, so deal with it, is typically seen as the scariest legendary Pokemon, and it's easy to see why. Both the altered and original forms of Giratina are meant to look like the Pokemon Grim Reaper, with tattered wings and a dark color scheme composed of gray, red, dark yellow, and black. The Pokemon also lives in the distortion world or reverse world, an alternate dimension where the laws of physics have no meaning. Giratina represents antimatter, which I'm sure you'll understand why that makes him scary, especially if you've read or seen the Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline from DC. Giratina, according to the Pokedex in Pokemon Platinum, Black, White, Black 2, White 2, Y, and Alpha Sapphire, was banished to the distortion world for its violence. This dude likes to scrap, and you should never fight someone who likes to fight. That's a bad idea, trust me. But ultimately, in at number 2, Necrozma. Necrozma, in addition to looking terrifying, is just basically like the physical embodiment of a black hole in the Pokemon universe. It's pitch black, which is a result of the impurities that built up inside the Pokemon during its deep slumber, and we all know what kinds of things impure people can get up to. Yeah. It also absorbs light, and once it absorbs enough of it, it can ultra burst to become Ultra Necrozma, a colossal dragon of pure light energy. It can also fuse with Solagio or Lunala, making them even more terrifying versions of the Sun and Moon mascots. Necrozma originates from deep space and is able to open and travel through ultra wormholes. It had the ability to give light, but it was injured and partially broke, thus resulting in the spread of crystals capable of activating the Pokemon's ability to use Z moves. This Pokemon is the reason we can use Z moves, and he looks horrifying, okay? Necrozma is my sleep paralysis demon, and I'm not gonna apologize for it. It's true. That and Shadow Bonnie. I had to work FNAF in here somehow. Gotta make sure I can put it in the tags. And finally, in at number 1, Eternatus. Eternatus is one overpowered beast, okay? And its Eternamax form is nothing short of the most aggressively horrific thing you can ever see in a Pokemon game. This Pokemon is what created the Dynamax phenomenon in Pokemon Sword and Shield. According to the Shield Pokedex entry, the Eternamax form is also absorbing the energy from the Galar region, making it weaker while powering up itself. It even ends up absorbing all the energy in Galar thanks to Rose's meddling. It pours out infinite amounts of energy and warps space and time around it. And what do you have to do in the game? Catch it. You are literally holding a ticking time bomb in your pocket, and for the purpose of what? Beating the game and a countless number of times? Like, sure, you have to catch it to save humanity. But do you know how terrifying that makes Eternatus? Its name even implies that it's immortal. What will happen when you die of old age? Either you're gonna keep it in its Pokeball or it's gonna be let loose, which will spell inevitable doom for society unless you like hand it off and then create some form of cult around protecting this one Pokeball. And at 10, Alcremie. This was the idea that the Ghostbusters writers originally had before they went with the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Gigantamax Alcremie is literally a giant wedding cake. If Ray had been getting married soon, this is what would have attacked them. Side note, Ray says they used to roast Stay Puft marshmallows at camp. Camp Wakanda. Ghostbusters takes place in the Marvel Universe, confirmed. Nevertheless, this thing is terrifyingly massive, like everyone's nightmare, unless you really like cake, but I don't think anyone could like cake this much. Plus, it's sentient, so I don't think that would fly with PETA. If another Pokemon eats it, is that cannibalism? Or is it the life cycle? Either way, with this thing around, I can feel my blood pressure rising and my heart failing, so I need to move on. And at number 9, Coalossal. This guy is monstrous. With the top half looking like an evil villain's lair from a D&D campaign, on a volcano, and the bottom half looking like a fire eternal mixed with the earth elemental, and has a massive mouth that looks like the mouth of the fire elemental from Far From Home. His G-Max move is Volcalyph, that allows the move to continue dealing damage to opponents for 4 turns. This thing would make the volcano that ruined Pompeii scared. This guy will be dropping lava for 4 turns and it will melt your face, and after eating, what comes out will cause anyone in the near vicinity to have to vacate the premises. I'm talking like a 3-block quarantine zone here. This thing is a tower and will actually wreck your day. He can just step on you, or sit. I wonder if it would burn or if you'd be crushed before you could feel anything. I don't want to test it myself, I'm just curious. And at 8, Snorlax. Snorlax. We love him, and for the past couple decades he's been slowly standing up, but after gaining his Gigantamax form, he lays right back down, and grows a freaking island on his belly. Yeah, his belly looks like the back of a Venusaur and Torterra combined. Why is this their weird love child and not a grass Pokemon? Well, his G-Max move is Replenish, which replaces any normal type attacks. The move deals damage, but also can restore any berries that Snorlax's allies have eaten during the battle. Of course, his special ability is getting more food. This is the embodiment of how I feel in the morning, but I have to get up and do stuff. He doesn't. Lucky him. The reason this is scary is because the land moves like his skin would, meaning if you're in the wrong spot and he decides to try to sit up, you'll get crushed in his rolls. Is that a good way or a bad way to go? Would he even really crush you, or is he just that squishy? Questions. And at 7, Gengar. If you were to go to a Pokemon theme park, this would be one of the rides, or at least one of the cars in like a shooter game. Gengar becomes a giant mouth, and in this case, that's all that matters. His tongue becomes so long, I'm sure there would be a lineup for this ride, and that the line would be the tongue. Like the part you stand on would be the tongue like looping around. Come on, don't think like that, you're better than this. His G-Max move is called Terror, and works just like Mean Look, and prevents the opponent from escaping. That sounds kinda lame if you ask me. Like, seriously? This is Gengar we're talking about, and you can't give him a decent G-Max move? It's called Terror, for God's sake. This is why the Pokemon is scary, because of the horrific move they gave him and his terrifying appearance. Fix Gengar for f***'s sake, please! And at 6, Meowth. 3 words. What the snail? No. Duck? No. Gigantamax Meowth is something I can't comprehend with my puny mortal mind. His body just pulls a Ralph Dimney and stretches up to like 12 stories. This guy becomes the Leaning Tower of Pisa. The amount of sheer terror this Pokemon exudes is honestly something to praise. His G-Max move is Gold Rush, which turns all normal type attacks into Gold Rush. The normal type attack damages opponents and scatters gold coins, which rewards more in-game currency after battle, like Payday, but on a massive scale, like around 10 times at least. Unfortunately, Pokemon knew this would be OP, and would only let you get the Pokemon as an event Pokemon before January 15th, 2020. So that's the day I'm finishing this list and also filming it. So kinda bummed I missed out, but I didn't even have the game yet, so it doesn't really matter. I'm broke. Halfway through at number 5, Sanaconda. You thought Sharknado was bad? How about a mother-loving snake tornado? Gigantamax Sanaconda is the most terrifying thing I would have ever seen if it was in real life. Snakes, while better than spiders, are still terrifying. Even Billy the Exterminator wouldn't f with this thing. G-Max Sandblast is this Pokemon's special move, and it traps the opponent in a Sandstorm for 4 to 5 turns. But that really seems underwhelming compared to what this thing looks like. It should be able to throw you up in the air like Fly, but then you hit the ground instead of hitting them, because that would be really cool. Like, that'd be cool as hell, right? But a sandstorm? Really? For a giant snake-nado? I don't think so. Even if its appearance is terrifying, how the hell would this even happen? Like, sure, it's infused with Gigantamax energy, but that energy really makes Meowth 10 stories tall, and a snake a premise for a really bad movie that shouldn't have gotten 1, let alone 6 sequels. Wait, there are 6 Sharknado movies? Holy crap, there are. I'll be damned. And why is the 5th one called Global Swarming? Really? Oh my lord. If the premise of these movies was Sanaconda, I would have watched. Pokemon, the next animated movie is Snakenado with Gigantamax Sanaconda. Screw Arceus or Darkrai, I want Sharknado Pokemon Edition. Let's do it. Hashtag Snakenado. And at 4, Kingler. If Santa Claus was a crab and a Pokemon and was on some form of super drug, this would be him. Gigantamax Kingler is somehow the Santa of the Pokemon universe, even more so than Delibird. The beard on this guy is so big, it's like if Dumbledore ran a foam race and then only got foam on his beard. Speaking of foam, Kingler's Gigantamax move is G-Max Foam Burst, which harshly lowers the speed of the opponent. When it says harshly, does it mean the usual definition of harshly? Because that's only 2 stages. And for something that has a giant foam beard, I'd assume it should be more than that. What is it with all these Pokemon and getting their super cool special abilities nerfed? Lowering your opponent's speed by 2 stages is so lame in comparison to something like Meowth, or hell, even Sanaconda don't want none. And they only trap you in Sandstorm. Oh, and I forgot to mention, he looks high as a kite. Just look at those eyes. They're so red. Don't do drugs, stay in school, eat your green vegetables, do it. Number 3, Machamp. Look, if Machamp was going to be a real wrestler, or if he was looking to audition for the Mortal Kombat series, he's looking good in his Gigantamax form. His G-Max move is Chi Strike, and he must have learned it from the pandas in Kung Fu Panda 3. When Machamp is Gigantamaxed, its fighting type attacks will be transformed into Chi Strike. This move raises the chance of a critical hit for Machamp and his allies. While this isn't really that big of a deal, it's better than something a normal move can do. Sandstorm, String Shot. But I mean, I guess it makes sense. But just take a look at this guy, holy goddamn! His hands are cracked and glowing like they're made of lava, and his speedo has finally changed to actual pants. I can finally look at this guy. This guy looks like he's the last ditch attempt to defeat the bad guy in a Ben 10 episode. And it can only be pulled off every other month because otherwise it would be too OP. Those eyes alone are just terrifying though, like look at them. Haunting. And at 2, Centiskorch. Did this giant fire centipede scare you? Well, how about a 246-foot tall fire centipede that will mess up your day? Yeah, Gigantamax Centiskorch is so big nobody knows its weight. And this thing is terrifying whether you like bugs or hate them, as you should. His G-Max move is Centriferno, which traps opponents in flames for 4 to 5 turns. By the way, that should be called Centrinferno, but whatever. The move, while not scary, can be effective to some types of Pokemon, whereas some are immune to sandstorms. This thing even has a Metang X made of fire on its face. Oh my god, this thing is horrifying. This damn thing is 246 foot tall, for God's sake. That's taller than the Villaggio Vista in Ghana, or everything in Kenya. This thing is so tall, if it faints and you're below it, you're dead. Hands down, dead. D-E-A-D, dead. No fighting it, no running from it, accept your fate and just hope it comes quickly. That's all any of us can really do in the end. Now that I've started your existential crisis, let's move on. Taking our number 1 spot, Eevee. If you've been here for a while, you'll already know why Eevee is terrifying. We've talked about so many Eevee creepypastas in the past, I think it's really what made me put her at number 1. But for those of you who think that Eevee is still a precious little bean who can do no wrong, remember that this is canon. Canon. Here is the Gigantamax Eevee. Look at her smile. It's so evil and looking down on you. She knows she can crush you with 1 paw, and she's ready to do it. I can't wait to see all the creepypastas that come out of this because holy crap, the evil smile is honestly the most terrifying thing I think I will ever see in Pokemon. And the fact that she knows how much power she has and she isn't afraid to use it should terrify even the hardest of Eevee stan. Did that sound weird?